Quora Reads. Is Trump's decision to pull troops out of Syria and Afghanistan really a bad idea? Answer comes from Stephen Burton, a retired soldier. No, it's a great idea. It should have been done sooner. Do you know what I bet everyone that is saying we should stay in Syria and Afghanistan have in common? I am talking about all of them. The politicians, the people on the TV news, on the radio, and on all the talk shows. They have no children, parents, wives, husbands, or other loved ones over there. To them, it's just an academic discussion. How many of them even mention the loss of human life, since we have been there in these articles saying we should stay? Zero. It doesn't even factor into the equation for them. As of July 27, 2018, there have been 2,372 U.S. military deaths in the war in Afghanistan. 20,320 American service members have also been wounded in action during the war. They don't care that our boys and girls are coming home. They don't care because they have never placed flowers at a burial site surrounded by hundreds of flags. They have never hugged a cold tombstone, wishing their loved one was alive again. They never got the call that mom or dad is never coming home. They never stood by in tears, helpless while a friend was lowered into the ground. They never stood at attention in front of a flag-draped coffin, listening to taps while a 23-year-old widow cried. Memorial Day is just a day off work and an excuse to have a couple of drinks at a barbecue to them. War is delightful to those who have had no experience of it. Desiderius Erasmus. The brave men and women who enlist in our armed forces do so to protect our nation, not to be used over and over again in a pointless 18-year-old conflict second only to Vietnam in duration. Something really ugly started happening in the early 2000s. The country started deploying American men and women all over the world in harm's way, with no thought for the implications of what this meant for the families of those young men and women. I enlisted in the U.S. Army at the age of 17 and stayed 20 years until my retirement. I was an infantry soldier. My son has been in 8 years as a heavy equipment operator. In those 8 years, as a heavy equipment operator, he has been deployed to more combat zones than I was in 20 years as an infantry soldier. That is outrageous. There was a time not long ago when deploying men and women to hazardous areas was something that sparked national debate. Now the politicians deploy our children and news of their deaths show up on page 6, column 2 of the local rag. In Britain's royal family, they have a long tradition of service in the armed forces. In the USA, we have a long tradition of politicians sending other people's children to war while theirs attend Ivy League schools and hobnob with Hollywood celebrities. We could learn a little something from our cousins across the pond. You know what else I can tell you for sure about most of those people demanding boots on the ground? They can tell you who Pupu Daipai is, but they can tell you just from seeing a picture who the Cash Me Outside brat is. They probably wrote long ranting articles published in the Washington Post and New York or LA Times about those whose feelings got hurt this week. If quizzed, these same people would have no clue who was the last American serviceman to die in Afghanistan, and his picture, if it showed up in their paper at all, was buried by the oh-so-important news about someone not liking what someone else said. Army Sergeant Jason Mitchell McCleary, 24, from Export, Pennsylvania. He died from a roadside bomb attack in Afghanistan earlier this month. He is survived by his wife and high school sweetheart Lily, along with his 2 sons ages 3 and 1. My dearest husband, you are the most beautiful person I have ever met, and we have loved a lifetime's worth. You always left a kiss in my hand when you had to go away for a while, and told me to save it for the day I really needed it, and today was that day. Lily McCleary. 24 years old, just a kid to me, just starting his life. A hero who wanted to serve his country. How many times has his face ran across your newsfeed? How many times have you turned on the TV or radio and heard the talking heads bring him up? Perspective is something that is seriously lacking in our country when someone getting their feelings hurt or acting like a fool on YouTube garners more press attention than a U.S. soldier being killed in a foreign land by hostile forces. Is Trump's decision to pull troops out of Syria and Afghanistan really a bad idea? I applaud the president for taking our loved ones out of harm's way in the quagmire that is Afghanistan, a quagmire that has been claiming American lives since 2001. I could care less what his motivation is. If you don't agree, you're entitled to your opinion, but don't expect me to give that opinion any credence until after you run to the nearest recruitment center and sign up your kids, your wife, or your husband to head over there. Rodrigo Val. Very well written, sir. I applaud you for bringing this up in a world of superficial content. Hamza Damlami Yusuf. Here in Nigeria, our soldiers are battling the Boko Haram terror group out in the desert. Only a few blogs care to announce the death of any of the brave soldiers because we, the people, are more concerned with what the politicians say, how they interpret the crisis out there. Your answer has now opened my eyes to an angel we never cared to look at, the humanity of the soldiers, and just like us, they have loved ones who wait for their return. Thank you for the eye-opener for this perspective. Carl Johnson. Well written. We are a society that has been involved in too many conflicts to the point where no one cares anymore. As you rightly pointed out, very few Americans have any emotional investment in these conflicts. No one they know is involved, so they don't care. Never mind the impact it has on the innocent people in the countries we are fighting in. We have lost our moral compass, and I, for one, am all for pulling troops out of combat. Getting involved in another country should be the rare exception, not the rule. Lives are too important to cast away so frivolously. Marco Antonio Munez. Amazing and well-written answer, quite on point. I wish more people would do like you. Focus on the most important thing, rather than devolve into politics or ideology. Zachary Stefan. I'm glad someone finally said this. It is exactly what I feel, and these same people accuse me of being a bad soldier or pussy for not being in favor. This is one decision I agree with for once from this administration. It isn't messed up to people at all that the kids who were born during Iraq and Afghanistan are all grown up and serving now. My dad rode a tank into Iraq in the 90s. He helped fight through Kuwait so that it would be the massive POG land it is now, 22 years ago. The apathy is shocking to me. Cynthia Chan. I support sending troops in, as long as they include rich kids and the children of politicians, and we include a rule saying that all political candidates have to have 5 to 10 years of military service under their belts.